May I have a motion to return to open session and adjourn this special meeting? Marcy moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order at 7:45 on June 19th. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, folks, so we have a lot on our agenda. We are adjourning our executive session early, but we will be going back into it, but we will go back into it after new business. So hopefully that will help with your timing. So our first order of business is a flood presentation. And I want to start by clarifying where we are in the overall process for making our flood-related investments. Our efforts started with the commissioning of 3 studies, which covered areas hard hit by flooding in 2021. Working with professionals, we selected these areas not only because of the flooding, but also because of the improvement that could be practically achieved. Once these studies were underway, the Board of Selectmen debated and adopted a policy for flood-related investments, which I encourage everyone to read. It is available on the town website. A key provision of this policy ensures that we will only invest where real improvement is possible. A sufficient number of property owners are helped, and flooding is truly mitigated and not merely shifted to other parts of town. While we remain open to initiating other studies as needed, we have now completed our 3 initial studies. You may have already heard about the larger Saltbox Lane study, which was presented to the public on May 12th. Tonight, we are going to hear from Ed Gentile regarding stormwater maintenance, as well as an update regarding the other 2 flooding studies, Tilly Pond and Bailey Avenue. Board members will have a chance to ask questions, as will members of the public. Based on tonight's discussions, we will decide whether an additional public forum is warranted. We want to ensure full transparency and ample time for everyone to get their questions answered before we move forward, as these are very important decisions. That said, I don't want to delay things too much. We do need to get started. So at the Board of Selectmen meeting, either July 3rd or July 18th, we will discuss and decide what to recommend to the Board of Finance. That board will debate our recommendations and how to pay for them, which will then be decided by the RTM. In parallel to this, we are working to determine whether funding from state and federal sources may be available. Following RTM appropriation, we will charter the appropriate building committees to oversee this work, which will include selection of appropriate construction companies through a bidding process, as well as development of a budget and plan of action, all which will be public. Finally, I want everyone to understand that these investments will take time. Regulatory approval and complex construction cannot be rushed. That said, we are committed to moving forward on these projects as quickly as possible. And now I'll turn the proceedings over to Ed Gentile, our Director of Public Works.
Thank you. Just don't keep the slides and go down. Just give me 1 second, please. Do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, just want to start it up again. Share.
No?
Share. I want to get the slide show right. Yeah. So what we have to do, ready?
Go with it.
Sorry for the delay. Ed Gentile, Director of Public Works, Town of Darien. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Sorry. plan on doing is just briefly taking you through some stormwater maintenance practices we've been doing and have been doing over the years, and give you a brief update on the flood studies. We have the DPW yearly maintenance activities on the agenda. Then we'll talk about the FY23 and 24 capital improvement projects, some that we've completed, some we have in the scheduled phase right now. Stream maintenance responsibilities, the town and the Darien residents themselves. We'll talk a little bit about programs, we'll talk a little bit about responsibilities and where to get some information on how to address issues with streams that abut your property or that are on your property. And finally, just review the drainage studies and give you updates on the 3 that we've done. So our DPW yearly maintenance system is actually, the program is driven by the MS4, a DEEP mandated program. It includes our annual requirements of cleaning catch basins, street sweeping. We have a program for low impact design that's run through the Planning and Zoning Department, as well as a direct connect impervious area reduction program, and that's all being driven by the MS4. That's our majority of how we try to manage our maintenance activities in town through a regulatory process, if you will. We have pre and post drainage system activities where we go out and check our systems. We check our low-lying areas that we have knowledge of that have flooded in the past. We also check our head walls before the storms. Pre and post-storm activities, we have culverts that we do check on a regular basis. They have a tendency to gather more debris, and we provide maintenance on those pre and post-storm. Same thing with our bridge crossings and our bridge abutments. We're noticing with some of the larger storms we've had in the past, there's more erosion, more scour, so we've been doing more of the inspections on a more regular basis after these storms come through. And finally, there's always a chance that something's in the pipe that we can't see. So there's opportunities we have with some of our vendors that we bring in and we do CCTV work. That TV provides us an opportunity to find if there's anything blocking the pipe and causing backups up the stream, or could cause backups in the future. And we do that as needed. We also implement some of the small storm drainage system upgrades as we find them through these pre and post storm activities. And finally, there's an important one that no one talks about but is very important: trying to keep the water in the roadways through curbing projects or asphalt ramp projects, apron projects. This is where a lot of the houses that are below the roadway get impacted the most. We've been doing quite a bit of those over the last 2 or 3 years. And finally, catch basins, we do upgrades every year. We pave every year, and those catch basins that are on those roads are inspected for structure and replacement. The tops, if they need to be bigger, we make the catch basins bigger to accept more water and reduce the amount of clogging. So let's talk about some of the DPW FY23 and 24 capital improvements. Broken them down to 3 areas for us tonight. We're going to talk about roadway projects, we'll talk about bridge repair and replacement projects, and we'll talk about one of my favorites, the dam repair project. We have some really good information for this one tonight, and I think it's you'll appreciate it. Some of our roadway projects that have been completed there's one on West Avenue. Again, we spoke about it a couple months ago. It was impacted by a utility company, took out the pipe. This way the water wasn't going in the basin and going into the system, actually going down the gutter to a low-lying area. What that was doing was causing flooding. So we went in and repaired that. Same area, Fairfield Avenue and Elm Street, we repaired and replaced some smaller catch basins with large double catch basins. Low-lying areas need to accept water quickly. So this is what we address with those 2 projects. We have West Avenue with there's an easement area that goes out and discharges the pipe. This is partially blocked. We found it with the CCTV work. We do have it scheduled for this year, probably in the fall. Long Neck Point, sorry, there's another catch basin and pipe installation along in front of 194. We found that pipe had been damaged. That went through an easement. We found a better design, a better way that we can manage it. We're making a connection downstream, which then takes the pipe and goes out to the harbor. And finally, Hanson Road in Middlesex. Block storm line, another one. No easement on the property, older pipe, roots. We barely got the camera in about 20 feet. The pipe is 200 feet long. So we've decided we're going to move it out into the street, make a connection, direct connection to one of our other structures. This way we can actually maintain it and monitor it at the same time. Bridges, Old Kings Highway South Bridge, we have a repair of this concrete and this asphalt deck surface needed to be done. Our bid costs came in, we did bid this about 3 months ago. We had a price come in for $99,000. We have ARPA funds in place right now to take care of that. It is scheduled to be done in July and August of this year. We do require maybe a 3-week shutdown of that roadway, so we'll do it while school's out of session and be able to shut that down and complete our work. Rings End Road Bridge, our bridge abutment, joint repair and a replacement of riprap over the footings. We have scouring issues down there from the large storms that we've had. Also impacted the dam, and we'll talk about that in a second. We do have an estimated cost for repairs of $163,000. Again, I requested ARPA funds to do that, and they're in place right now. The consultant has submitted to DEP just this past month a 50% design completion. That's generally when you submit for your permits. We will continue to be working on the specifications for the bids while we're waiting for the approval from the DEP.
Ed,
Yes, sir.
riprap over footings?
I'm sorry?
Riprap? Can you give
Riprap?
us- Yeah, give us a little.
They're large angular stones. They come in different sizes, anywhere from 3-6 inches up to 15 inches, 18 inches. And the larger the stones, they are used in areas where the flow and velocity is great. Smaller stones where the streams are smaller and the velocities are less. What it does is armor the side and protects it against erosion.
Got it, thank you.
Hanson Road Bridge, we got a bridge abutment damage. We noticed it and found it in July of last year. It's going to require a full bridge replacement. We do have funds for a design. We had a design estimate of $169,000. We're on target for that still. We're at a 50% design phase right now. We're completed. Estimate replacement cost of $1.5 million. We did apply last month for the state local bridge program. They did open up their applications in May, so we quickly jumped on that and submitted one. What could happen here with this 50-50 cost share is we'd have to appropriate the $1.5 million, and if approved for this project, which we may find in 2 or 3 months, we'll hear back, they will supplement it with half of the cost. So we could see about $750,000 coming back to the town.
And is that road going to have to be shut down?
We haven't gotten to constructability yet.
Okay.
There's a good chance it will, to shorten the construction period. We haven't really decided that yet. I really haven't directed the engineer to do constructability on it yet. But my thought is if we do shut it down and get it done quicker, we do have access in different directions, and we'll try to do it possibly when school is out. That's the genesis behind that. But that really hasn't been talked about yet. We're just kind of waiting on the final design on how we're going to build it. And we've gone through different iterations of that. Corms Pond Dam. Temporary repair was done a little over a year ago in February when we've had the opportunity and the approval from the DEP to go in there and do the emergency repair. We do continue to monitor it on a weekly basis, making sure that we're not having or seeing any more failure. Our design was completely funded for the final design, repair design, in April of 2022 of $160,000, and the consultant began that month. Is currently 100% or 50% completed. Here's the good news. DEP permit was submitted in March of this year, 2023. This normally takes 6 to 9 months to get approval. We obtained it 2 weeks ago. So we're moving along very, very quickly. The other good news goes along with the preliminary cost estimate of $1.5 million and FEMA. We've had multiple meetings with FEMA, I'd say to the tune of about 25 or 30 virtual meetings with them over the last year and a half, 18 months. Hundreds of man hours between the town and our consultant. We are approved right now for damaged costs, which means we've showed them what was damaged on the dam itself and needed to be replaced. We quantify that with a cost. The problem is that dam was built years and years ago, so there's a part where you have to make improvements to meet code, right? The dam needs to be wider, needs to be heavier, needs to be deeper, things like that. Those are called mitigation costs. And you're allowed up to 100% of your damage costs. So if your damage is $1 million, mitigation could be up to $1 million. So they're looking at our cost estimate right now for mitigation. It looks promising. I'm not going to make you a commitment that I can't follow through on. I think we're in really good shape. We have a really good consultant working with us, so we're hopeful that we'll get the entire $1.5 million backed by FEMA. Again, we'd have to appropriate it, but FEMA would reimburse us for the costs.
So, with the Gorham Pond Dam, but the mitigation costs, if I'm understanding correctly, that's not only just to repair or take care of what's there. I mean, mitigation, you're anticipating future problems, and this is also to help mitigate that. I mean, I'm trying to ascertain the difference between fixing what's broken and what could be an upgrade that helps with increased capacity.
Okay. The first thing I learned about dealing with FEMA, their definition of words are different than ours. Okay, so mitigation to them has nothing to do with improving flow or improving a bridge or anything like that. Mitigation is when you take it above and beyond what the damage value was. It is that you added more concrete. That's mitigation. You added a new guardrail. That's mitigation. You used a different type of material. Mitigation. That's all it is. It just has to do with them. It cost you X to put it back the exact way it was. Anything above and beyond that is mitigation.
Others might call it upgrade.
Some of us would.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so on to section for stream maintenance responsibilities. And what's interesting about this, it includes all of us. This is one of those sections where we all take a little bit of responsibility. So with the town of Darien, for us, it starts with the guidance from EPC on what is allowable and what is permitted activities in the stream area. Also, we have been in the process of setting up to provide an annual river stream curbside debris bulk pickup program. It's a lot to say, goodness. In the spring and in the fall, so twice a year. We'll schedule it through the DPW like we do bulk pickup. Properties along designated rivers, streams, and brooks only will be allowed to be part of this program. Between the EPC and DPW, we'll identify what those programs are and let those folks know that they're part of that program. And DPW will provide a list of what we'll take off of there. And we're looking for debris in the streams, you know, or trees or stumps or things that you can pull out of there that's blocking the flow and providing a better system when you remove them. So we'll be doing that. And just a reminder, of course, public works crews cannot go on private property, so this program would require that whatever is found, kind of like bulk pickup, you have to take it to the curb and we will take it away. And another note is the town would like to start working with the residents that abut the waterways to establish a stewardship program. I heard there used to be one for the Good Wise River. Stony Brook needs one too. Tokenique. It's when neighbors looking after neighbors, and with the assistance of the town to putting that all together. So, and I think that's important. I've heard a lot of people after the storms, looking upstream, going, "Well, that came from up there," And I think a lot of people need to take a little bit of responsibility and start looking at what's close by in these rivers. And the next slide we'll talk about maybe you should be putting certain things in those areas so they don't end up in the river if we do have floods.
Ed, can we just go back 1 second? Did we schedule the bulk pickup yet, or that's?
We're just starting to put it together right now.
Okay.
It's in its infancy stage, but I'm sure it'll grow up really quick.
So maybe in the fall?
Possibly in the fall.
Okay. Yeah.
So water courses on private property, and I think this is a good slide. I want to thank Karen Dunn for helping me with this one. What residents can do before a storm, quote unquote, by hand. Of course, move falling branches, leaves, yard waste, and so on, whatever's in there. Another piece of that puzzle, though, is, as I mentioned just a second ago, remove or secure items in a flood-prone area that could float away. Logs, play equipment, sandboxes, everything. I will tell you what I found downstream. We have a picture of that. I'll show you. It's everything. Ladders, lawn furniture. When it floats, it moves. Larger storms, it moves fast. and it does get bottled up somewhere, and it does cause flooding. I think it's something that we need to consider, and the residents, and as well as the town, needs to work on. What residents can't do before a storm, quote unquote, by machine. You can't use a machine in regulated areas. A stream and a brook is a regulated area. So no dredging, removal of stumps and root balls with heavy equipment, any soil disturbance within the regulated area, and we'll talk about this in a second, how you figure that out, and anything that requires a permit from EPC. EPC will direct you where those regulated areas. They're very good at it. They'll sit down and talk to you, they'll update you on where your property is and is not, that's a good place to start. If you have a river or stream on your property, I'd start there first. Know where my property is and know what I can and cannot do on it. So, resident resources before and after storm events. Put this slide to give you a flavor of where we have all this information. It's not the only places, there are others, but the town website, of course, the town newsletter is the other place too. Stream maintenance pamphlet for residents, we're working on that now. There's other towns that have it. It's the do's and don'ts for the streams and where you can contact people to get some information. The Environmental Protection Officer, the EPC, his name is Rick Talinelli. He's very, very good at what he does. I recommend talking to him if you have a stream or a brook on your property. And flood regulations and our drainage manual for the town, that is about 20 years old, is currently under review. We got funding this year as part of the FY24 budget to go in and revamp that, making some changes that have been overdue. And here's my picture.
Ed,
Yep.
so when we make those changes, how is that communicated to our residents?
Changes of the regulations. Generally, there's a public information meeting with regards to if the changes are substantial.
Okay.
Others are, we've done things where we've done mailings with links to it to all the local engineers. Those are important because those are, between them and the lawyers, those are the ones that get to see it first, or firsthand are involved with it. It'd be important to get them that information when it's first handed out.
Great.
Just this picture, this is the bridge at Goodwives River. I can guarantee you none of that was there before Storm Ida. That is everything that's come down through the very small stream that goes up through and underneath the post road. And it did take them a while to clean this all out, but it also caused the water level in that area to rise because it could not get underneath the bridge and into the culvert. The drainage studies updates. We're going to look at Salt Box, Coach Lamp area, the Bailey Avenue area. We'll talk about Grove Street, Tilly Pond area. Also, those are the 3 studies that we decided to look into. And you know, the question's always been asked, why were these areas chosen to be studied? After Ida came through here, I had an opportunity to go to a lot of places that had a lot of flooding. And one designation that I had was, as we were going around, was your property, was the area supposed to flood? That was the first piece I looked at. And then after looking at that, went and looked at, is there infrastructure that I can identify that is predominantly undersized or full of debris or needs maintenance work? That was another piece. But the big piece was, you know, were there areas that were not supposed to flood and they flooded significantly? And those are the 3 areas that you see in front of you right now. And that's why those 3 areas were done. They weren't the only areas in Darien. There was another area, the northwest area, northwest section of town, on Kensett property, where 40 homes were impacted by that flood. It's a brand new development. No one believed that ever should fly. I was surprised to hear so many homes were impacted. And they're working with a private engineer to look into that. So, and just so you know, and I put this at the bottom here, any and all improvements will be measured and investigated for impacts downstream, which is very, very important. Just because we remove the problem, it's going to go someplace else. It has to go someplace else. So if I take a blockage out, the water is going to go downstream. It's going to go to your neighbor. It's going to go to the stream or river downstream, and it's going to have an impact. And you have to evaluate that impact before you propose to make any type of improvements. So we take an approach to these improvements to do no harm. And it's upstream and downstream. And people don't realize that. We could back up water if we make a system inappropriately sized as part of the design. So I put the table on here for Elsa and Ida to show you the sizes of these storms. I thought it was an important slide to reiterate. Elsa was a large storm for us. If you look at the 6-hour window, we had almost 5 inches of rain, categorizes as a 50-year storm event. That's a pretty good sized storm. But if you look over at Ida, and you look over at the 3-hour event where we almost had 5.5 inches, that's a 500-year storm event. You don't design for those. FEMA outlines those so that you know that it's an opportunity that you could flood, and you may want to have flood insurance. But there's no engineering firm, there's no engineering or regulations for towns that design for that large a storm. So Bailey Avenue, we did the study over there. It's in the just north of the railroad tracks, just west of Bailey Avenue and just south of West Avenue. That's where the majority of the flooding that is categorized as not to be happening, it happened significantly. So we did do a study there. We did complete it. Current findings show that the backup was caused by the culvert under the railroad tracks, and this was during Ida. We do have a plan to meet with the residents in July of this year to review the findings. We'll talk about the study conclusions. We'll talk about flood hardening measures, things I'm doing now also on my facilities, pump stations in the DPW garage, areas to be prepared. Now that you know how high it's going to flood, prepare yourself in case it happens again. And then finally, some residential flood insurance options. I happen to come across some stuff. We'll talk to them about some options there too, just to help them protect themselves even further.
Ed,
Yes.
how many residents are affected by the Bailey Avenue area flooding?
The significant flooding impacted 3 houses there to about 4 feet, and they weren't supposed to flood at all. The area north of West Avenue is in a flood hazard zone. That area was supposed to flood, and it did.
Thank you.
Grove Street, Tilly Pond area. We studied the Grove Street area and Boston Post Road area. We had Tilly Pond and West Avenue areas. It's all one watershed. It is connected with a pipe underneath the railroad tracks by Squab Lane. We did complete it. It had a cost of $43K. There was a 50% public partnership. There were 3 stakeholders in the public, in the private sector that stepped up and contributed to this. We did have a meeting with them, and our current findings indicated multiple sections on upstream of the Post Road are undersized and need to be addressed. We also had current findings indicate the culvert on the railroad tracks is also undersized. Multiple alternatives were provided in our meeting with the stakeholders there. Potential costs ranging from anywhere from $3 million to $3.5 million. We do have the consultant investigating some additional options around Tilly Pond that could possibly provide additional mitigation to the flooding. But the potential cost range you see there, the window is very, very small, but understand that there's a 35% contingency sitting on those numbers, which is very, very conservative. And that contingency could be anywhere between material costs when we finally do the construction and labor costs at that time too. There could be relocations for utilities. We don't know what's in the ground. We're going through the town. We're going through the Boston Post Road. We have easement acquisitions possibly, and we have easement areas for restoration. So those are the contingency numbers that could play a role. But like I said, 35% was a little bit on the conservative side. And finally, let me just talk quickly about the alternatives. Our consultant talked about 8 different alternatives, kind of walked us through making improvements on one side, making improvements on another, and finally came together on making improvements on both sides and saw a reduction of flooding to 0 and 3.5 inches of rainfall, or 8 inches of water in the area. That would have been the proposal or alternative for $3.47 million. Our schedule right now is looking at, because of the permits that are going to be needed, we're looking at 24 to 27 months design, permits, and bidding. We need a permit to cross the Boston Post Road from the DOT. Their DOT construction group has to review our plans in its entirety, so the plans have to be completed. Also, we have permits that we are going to be required to get under the DOT property and the Metro North Railroad. That one will take about a year for
The
their
railroad.
review.
The railroad.
Yeah, absolutely. And construction is looking a little bit longer than one construction season because of the area downtown and the close proximity to utilities. It's a little tight in some areas also down there to work in, but we're looking at about 18 months for construction, a little bit more than 1 year of construction. I did throw in a slide here just for you to take a look at the area that we're talking about. The blue that you're seeing is existing piping. Makes its way from Tilly Pond through the parking lot, underneath the railroad tracks. Makes its way through Grove Street parking lot, underneath the fountain, onto Grove Street, down Brook Street, across the Boston Post Road, and then alongside 1020 Boston Post Road and through the Baywater development and out to Old Kings Highway South and Goodwise River. That's the section we focused on, and that's the section they made alternative suggestions on repairs. And finally, salt box, coach lamp area. As you're aware, that study was in salt box, coach lamp, Pleasant, Thomasina, Gardner area, Du Bois. It's 55 acres of watershed. It's now completed. Our findings found that the culvert capacity started to deteriorate at about a 10-year storm event where flooding started to happen on the roadways, which means our system is undersized for the 25-year storm event for a normal design. This area falls into what they call ponding areas or low-lying areas where our regulations request that and require that we do a 50-year design for those areas to drain them quicker. We did have a public meeting on May 11th of this year. Our consultant presented the results and his recommendations, multiple recommendations, and showed a potential cost range of $6.76 to $7.19 million. Again, this is carrying a 35% contingency on it, which is still, in my opinion, very, very conservative, but a lot of unknowns still. We're going through neighborhoods, we're going through properties that we may or may not have easements. We're going into the post road again. Plenty of utilities to run into that need to be relocated. So I think that's why he used such a high number there. Our schedule is looking around for design permits and bidding anywhere between 18 to 21 months, a little bit shorter than the other one because of the lack of having to address the Metro North permitting. And our construction is about 12 months predicted. And I added some slides in here just from the presentation just to give you a flavor that, in case you didn't see it. Please bear with me here. There are not many. This is the existing conditions for a 50-year storm event, which is what we need to design for. The darker blue sections are the ponding of water up to about 2.5 feet. The red houses are the ones that are impacted directly by water, and the yellow ones are impacted for access. Now going to the next one, this is the 100-year storm event. You see the magnitude of the water. Now, remember I told you we had a 500-year storm event. It's actually greater than this. And we had 29 structures directly impacted just on this screen alone, and 41 access structures. One neighborhood is actually cut off completely for emergency services. So one of the alternatives that we looked at was alternative 1A. It's a 50-year design. So during a 50-year storm event, there will be no flooding that you'll see. But what we did here, we ran it through a 100-year storm event. And we dropped a 100-year storm event on this design. And you'll see that the 100-year storm event has slight ponding just in certain areas. The intersection of Salt Box and Salt Box East, you see a little pink color. There's a little pink color on Coach Lamp and also on Du Bois. That's all in the roadway. No houses were impacted for a 100-year storm using this 50-year design, which is why our consultant thought this was a better design, a better alternative. And again, just highlighting the one alternative that was presented in the slide previously. with the cost to it. Almost done with. We have salt box area summary of the alternatives. It exceeds our normal design, except for the low-lying areas where we are required to do it, and provides a factor of safety, as you saw when I use it, to mimic a 100-year storm event on that new system. Significant improvements in roadway flood depths in a 25 and a 50-year event. You're not going to see any with this design. Flood is limited to the roadways, no direct structure impacts for a 100-year storm event. Again, very important.
Ed,
Yes.
really quickly, what color is the 100-year storm event on the, do you have the alternatives, or is this just, oh, that's just 1A, sorry, apologies.
I only showed you one.
Right, correct.
And that's the
right.
one. That's the 50-year designed, 100-year storm. 94% reduction in flooding, of course, for the 100-year storm event. There are some impacts. They're minimal. And no residents impacted for the 50-year storm event, of course, because we designed it for a 50-year storm. That shouldn't happen. And they say currently now 43. 100-year event, 13 residents were impacted and are currently 70. So the only thing I'd like to add is this last part, because it's the part where we do our best as engineers to do a design to make it better, to add a factor of safety. But if constructed, these improvements will never solve flooding in its entirety. Right? We can never address a 500-year storm event with this design. If we get that, it's going to flood again. But what we've done is we made improvements on the storms that we're more likely to see, that were impacting the neighborhoods in this area. So I think that's very important.
Thank you, Ed.
And I think the last part is the consultant for this project provided us with some really good information to make our decision on whether to move forward on these projects or not. And I'm more than happy to discuss that with you folks whenever you'd like.
This might be a question more for Jeremy, but the flooding regulations that we're going to be looking at, are we going to be looking at 50-year instead of 25-year?
Good evening, Jeremy Ginsberg, Director of Land Use. We are having, as Ed mentioned, there was money put in the fiscal '24 budget, which starts in about 2 weeks, to get this project rolling along, which is the review of the stormwater, what would you call it, stormwater management report that was done for Public Works, and the subsequent stormwater regulations known as Section 880 of the Darien zoning regulations. So the first part will be studying the various storms. As Ed showed you in the chart earlier, the way storms have been calculated have changed. What used to be a few inches was a certain size storm. That's a lesser storm. The evidence is we're seeing bigger storms, which you're aware of. And so the first step will be working on the report to determine what size storms should be designed for by property owners, both residential and commercial, as they redevelop their property, and what standards we need to use going forward. Again, that's one way to chip away at the problem, is little by little as properties get redeveloped. Just what Ed said, 50-year storm can help address many storms, but it won't address all of them, and there's no future guarantees. But you have to have something that makes sense in the context with what the town's doing and what private property owners, builders, developers do. There has to be some logic to it. So certainly that's one of the things we'll be talking about with the consultant when we kick off with them late July. Talk about the appropriateness of design storms, how much water can be expected, how to alleviate flooding in these regulations going forward. Because it would be a zoning regulation amendment, the Planning and Zoning Commission would have to hold a public hearing on any regulation changes that are put forth, and then they'll make a determination based on that.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. Any questions for Ed?
I think dozens of our residents and businesses were hugely affected 2 years ago, and I think they're all ready to move forward with these projects. I think the more information that we can discuss at the board, whether, and the steps of what we need to do to move forward, but also another public information session, whatever we can do to keep our public involved and informed.
Yeah, so Ed, the salt box public information, that was really, really well done and really informative. When do you think we could put together one for Grove?
Spoke to the consultant this afternoon, and we're looking at sometime in July
Okay.
to do it. He couldn't commit to the middle of July. He definitely said he could do it in, but he said we'll talk tomorrow morning. I told him after we met tonight, I'd have a little bit more information from him, and let's see what, what he could do with his schedule.
Okay.
Just knowing if there's any dates you need me to hit to have it done before a certain time, that would be important.
Okay. And we don't have other studies that we're thinking about doing, right? So this is the menu that we're looking at right now, right?
Currently, I have no other studies in the hopper or any other ones that I'm considering doing at this moment right now. No.
Okay. I mean, here are the options. We wait for the information session on Grove, which could take a little while. There are some other alternatives there, so that could take a little bit of time to flesh out. And we then sit down and decide on Grove. Well, Bailey has its own problems, but on Grove and Saltbox, or we discuss at our next meeting Saltbox, and if we want to go forward with that at that time, we do that. So the question is, do we want to wait and look at them all at one time, which we have everything now at one time, and we have an idea on the Grove number, or do we want to move forward on Saltbox?
I would advocate for moving forward when we have the information. So if we have Bailey and Saltbox now, move forward with those and wait till we can make the decision on Grove when we get those numbers.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so you know what, then what we'll do is we'll discuss the Saltbox study at our July 3rd meeting. But please still go ahead with Joe for the other information.
Okay.
Okay? You good?
Yep, I agree.
John, are you good on that?
He may not be there.
I'm going to speak for John, he's good.
No, he's gone.
He's gone.
Okay. Okay. All right, so that's the plan. Thank you, Ed.
You're very welcome.
Really,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for keeping us up to date. Okay, next item on the agenda.
You know, we just have this down since John's gone. Are you okay if I shut this down since John's gone?
Let me just make
There's
sure.
some people that are on Zoom watching
No.
though, right? No?
No.
This isn't a
He's
Zoom
only
meeting with
said-
public, it's just for John.
Let me just check with him, 1 second.
I think it's 2:30 in the morning where he is. Out of memory. Yeah. He had said he wasn't going to be able to stay.
Yeah, okay, Kate. We'll go on without him. Okay, next item on the agenda is the first Selectmen's report. I have a couple of reports. One is, today is Juneteenth, a significant U.S. holiday which commemorates the day when the last enslaved individuals were informed of their freedom. It's a profound day for all Americans, reflecting our commitment to freedom and inclusion. And last week, as part of a Fairfield County initiative, I had the honor of signing a proclamation recognizing Juneteenth's importance. This proclamation, which was presented to the Black Catholic Apostolate, in Bridgeport, can be found here. I gave copies to the Board of Selectmen, and it's also on our website. It serves as a reminder of our shared history and our continued journey to our more inclusive future. As a reminder, I mentioned at the last Board of Selectmen meeting regarding the Westcog noise abatement study, 7,400 residents from Darien and New Canaan will be receiving postcards in the mail, and there'll be a QR code on there for you to fill out a survey for the noise abatement for the New Canaan train line. And if you prefer, you can go onto the Westcog site and fill out the survey there. It was a pleasure to attend the Middlesex Middle School and Darien High School graduation ceremonies last week. Congratulations to all of our recent graduates. It's terrific to see them all. On June 14th, the Monuments and Ceremonies Commission and members of the Veterans Foreign Wars Post 6933 hosted Darien's annual Flag Day, and I want to thank the selectmen that participated there at the Veterans Circle here at Town Hall. This past Saturday and Sunday, I attended Eagle Scout ceremonies recognizing Dennis Glassmeyer, Abhilash Palaki, William Laird, and Gaurav Parwal. I was pleased to be able to thank them in person for their outstanding work on significant Eagle projects that benefit all of our community. Post 53 turned 53. Darien EMS Post 53 has been providing our community with high-quality medical services and a unique learning opportunity for Darien students since 1970. An anniversary celebration was held at Weburn Country Club last Saturday, and it was really rewarding to see all of the alumni from Post and the current Posties there catching up with everyone. I want to just say congratulations to all of them. And I'd like to take this opportunity to give the board an update on Great Island. This evening, actually, exciting, finally, I'm glad to report that we finished the interview process for the 4 residents at large portions on our new advisory committee. This 9-member group will be essential in advising us on the future of the property and addressing environmental concerns. We've been encouraged by the community spirit with 45 residents stepping forward to participate. The Board of Selectmen will vote to appoint members at our next meeting on July 3rd. I know.
Both.
I know. We're just going to appoint. But we appreciate everybody. To remind everyone, there's no public access on the property. We have taken some steps to ensure safety and maintain the property, and that includes the installation of 12 no public access signs and 6 24-hour video surveillance warning signs, in addition to various trail cameras across the property. We're addressing safety concerns at the jetty. There were some protruding pipes in that stone wall area. We removed those, and the harbor master is working with DEEP to secure approval for us to put out some markings to let people from the water know that there's a danger there. We hired a consultant to design 2 schematic driveway plans for the main entrance. We are initiating routine property maintenance, including tree and stump removal and safety-related structural adjustments. And we are also developing plans for the safe removal and indoor replacement of transformers and oil tanks on the property. Among environmental concerns is the presence of elevated arsenic levels in the soil. Traditional remediation methods for this, such as soil blending or removal or replacement, although they are effective, they are expensive and disruptive. My own research led to an eco-friendly and cost-effective solution, phytoremediation. And this is a process that uses hyper-accumulated plants, in this case, soybean, arugula, sunflowers, and mustard greens, to absorb the arsenic that's in the soil. In an effort to make the most of this growing season, we've initiated a phytoremediation program with GZA, our environmental consulting firm. This program involves soil testing, planting, regular assessment throughout the summer, and then safe disposal of the plants at the end of the season, and then followed by sowing of ryegrass for winter protection in this area. This is on a 1/4 acre, this pilot program. So I want to thank everybody for their support on this project, and I want to thank you for your patience as we move forward. We're dedicated to transforming Great Island into a treasured asset for all residents, respecting both its environmental integrity and the community value. So that's an update on Great Island. Board liaison.
Well, it's Kate.
Okay, sorry, Kate.
I'll just briefly, we are approaching the year end, so departments are working on closing out accounts, and over the next few meetings, you will see more transfers coming as we close things up for the year. We are in the middle of negotiations with the Public Works, the union contract. And lastly, we've been checking counts. We've had Jim Karen voluntarily, checking places, and I've been out checking the parking lots. And we seem to have withstood the influx from New Canaan quite well. So it's all going good. Well, okay.
So that's good. Are they still targeting September, October?
We have not had an update. It's gone. I've not heard an update of when they anticipate the work being done. It was supposed to be done by the end of the summer, but some people are skeptical.
Right. This is a slow time.
Yeah. If it goes past the end of the summer, I would be concerned because we had already expected that our commuters would pick up in the fall.
Right.
And if we still have a lot of New Canaan people, that could be problematic, but we'll see how it goes.
Wait and see. Okay. All right. Thanks, Kate. Sorry about that. Mike?
Blight Review did not meet last week. We had a quorum issue, so we are scheduled to meet again on July 12th, and I expect to have a report at that time.
The Hinley Homes and Royal Building Committee last met on June 7th. The discussion at that time was regarding the home school renovation project and the bid process that has started for Hinley and Royal. The discussion regarding the revised cost estimates for Hinley and Royal happened on May 24th. But right now we do have the state approval letter for homes, and we hope to go to bid very soon, if not already. We had a robust discussion about the revised cost estimates for homes. The original estimate is now been revised to be $2.1 million over that. There has been more work with the entrance of the building, revised with security needed and construction corridor for the music room, and we're changing now the underground drainage in lieu of the retention pond idea, which is would benefit the neighbors. Neighbors were very concerned. The Architectural Review Board wanted the entrance to be pulled out to be more prominent, so those changes affected the dollar amount. The music room was changed to be off to the side for better circulation, better sound. Right now the project's still carrying a design and CM contingency and the owner's contingency as well. They are projected to be over budget, but they're going to see what happens when they come in. Delaying the award of contractors may also benefit us, and they may delay some trades and contractors such as painting, which would help to close the gap over timing. Flooring also could be delayed at that point. The goal is to go to bid with the full package of alternates included in the big package, and the next meeting will be when the Hinley and Royal bids start to come in, which will be mid-July. So we are waiting until those bids come in.
So each one of these, we did bonding separately.
Correct. They're separate projects.
Are we able to move money?
No.
No.
We're not.
You would have to go back through the appropriation
Correct.
process.
They were appropriated individually, and the state considers them individual projects.
Okay.
That's it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sarah. Marcy?
Sure. Mental Health Task Force did not meet this month. We'll be meeting again in July to kind of go over what our schedule and our programs are going to be for the fall. I do definitely want to shout out to anyone. If you are looking for some mental health resources, please jump on our town website. You can go right under mental health resources, pull down the tab, and it will give you a plethora of different providers that are seeing patients at this point and resources that you can use if you're struggling or someone you know is. Oxbridge Building Committee met on Thursday. Once the kids were out, it's the first time that we've met in person in 3 years. We got a full tour of the school. It was absolutely exquisite. That morning, I think at 7 a.m., the building crew came in and knocked down sort of their wall that was transitioning the accessory building along with the academic building, and several of the teachers were still there. They were able to see the new gymnasium and the new library and the new cafeteria, which are phenomenal. They did a beautiful job. The size was overwhelming. I mean, the gymnasium, I think, is probably 3 times the size of what was originally there. So
Wow.
kids are really going to have a wonderful opportunity to use that space. Should be done, complete, by the time kids are ready to come back at the end of August. So couple of little hiccups. There's flooring issue with the gymnasium. That's set to be in middle of July to put that in. So the gym should be ready to go. Paving is scheduled for the last week of third week of August. That should be ready to go. And the project should be almost complete by the time the kids move back in September. So that's great. And it's coming in under budget at this point, which is phenomenal. So I want to give a huge shout out to all my predecessors that had worked on this project through the quoting process and through the bidding process and hiring the vendors. Kip Coons did a phenomenal job leading this charge. So I definitely want to thank him publicly, because the school and our community is really, really at an advantage for what he's done over there at Oxbridge. So thank you.
Yeah. And Duke was big help.
And Duke, of course. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is public comment. And so we have a number of folks here. So, Kate, do we have a list? Okay. All right. Would anyone else like to sign up for public comment?
I would.
You would?
I didn't realize there was a sign in.
I actually did sign up, so
Oh, sure.
maybe I could go.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll just ask you to state your name and your address.
I'm planning on it, Monica.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Hi.
Goody Gray. I know quite a few of you, actually.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah. 1 Brush Island Road, Darien.
Can I ask, is Gray with an A or an E?
A.
Thank you.
And it's Goody with a Y. I have lived in town for almost 30 years and served on the RTM in the mid-1990s. And Department of Public Works was my committee, my subcommittee. I'm here tonight with my husband, friends, and residents of Darien to ask the Board of Selectmen to vote to raise the pride flag again here at Town Hall, where it has flown for the past 2 years in support of the LGBTQIA+ community. Since the Board of Selectmen adopted a government-only flags policy last November, I have become increasingly concerned that Darien is out of step with other educated and privileged towns surrounding us here in Fairfield County, Connecticut. Greenwich and Fairfield, both Republican-led towns, are flying the pride flag this month. Bridgeport, Weston, Ridgefield, Easton, Norwalk, Stamford are all flying the pride flag as well in June. Though Darien has issued a town proclamation in support of the LGBTQ community, it does not replace the show of support that the pride flag represents for all who live in town and come to our town to see. The Darien Board of Selectmen's 2022 reversal on flying the pride flag indicates the town of Darien has turned against the community for which the flag stands. It is not a neutral act. Those with me here tonight do not believe the Board of Selectmen's decision reflects the attitude of the Darien community, particularly our youth, who need our support now more than ever. At a time when the LGBTQ community is under attack across the US and around the world, we need to show our support more than ever before. And so I am asking you to please reconsider your display of flags policy and call a vote to raise it again for the remainder of the month and in the future. Thank you very much for your consideration. I would also like to say that I'm handing, along with my written comments, a letter from our Lieutenant Governor, Susan Bisowitz, in support of my comments.
Thank you.
Do you want me to?
You know what, I'll put you in, but Jess Batson, are you here? Batson? Yeah, okay. And what's your name?
Maggie Ramsey.
Maggie?
Ramsey, R-A-M-S-A-Y.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm Jess Batson. I grew up here in Darien, Connecticut.
Sorry, can you spell that and also your address?
Absolutely. Jess Batson. B-A-T-S-O-N, my last name.
Thank you.
Jess is short for Jessica. I live in Avalon currently. And I grew up here in Darien. I went to Oxbridge. I went to Middlesex Middle School. I went to Darien High School. And I'm a transgender woman. And it is incredibly hard to speak right now in front of people in positions of power refusing to put up a flag that symbolizes support for other people like me, whether they're out like I am or in the closet still. The symbol that it represents makes us feel seen. And that's a lot. When you grow up in a town such as Darien, you don't feel seen. Anything that might make you feel comfortable in your gender is shamed. As a trans person, I did everything that a Darien person who's assigned male at birth does to feel connected with their community. I played sports. I was one of our best hockey players. I was one of our best baseball players. I did the China exchange program in high school. And yet still, it wasn't until I got to college that I realized what a trans person was. I didn't know what a trans person was until I got out of Darien. And when I found out what a trans person was, I was able to look at myself and think, am I like that? And in doing that, I was able to come to terms with my gender and with myself. And not only come to terms, I was able to accept who I was. And there was never those visibility. I took health class here. There was no talk about trans people. All of my classes, not a thing. There was only degrading comments that when you take a flag away that supports those people, it encourages those degrading comments. And I'm looking at you and Marcy and Monica, you two love that. That's what you're for, by taking down that flag. And yeah, I don't have much else to say, but to my queer community, you are seen, you are heard, and whether or not they decide to put this flag up or not, you're strong and you're gonna make it through, just like I did. So, thank you.
Karen Bacadoro, not here, correct? Okay. Rachel?
Thank you. Hi. I'm Rachel Taylor, West Ave. Last week on Flag Day, I stood here in front of Town Hall with many Darienites and indeed Selectmen who sit here this evening to honor our flag alongside our dedicated Monuments and Ceremonies volunteers and veterans alike. I wanted to take a moment to thank Terry Gaffney and his commission, which is the Monuments and Ceremonies Commission, for their ongoing and good work with ceremonies like the Flag Day event, and also recently organizing another successful Memorial Day parade, which I think I saw a lot of folks at, and it was a good time. I'm speaking today not only to recognize those valuable efforts, but also to register my deep concern and offense over what I witnessed on my way into this public meeting this evening. I witnessed a group of folks, many are here in the audience tonight, dispersing from a gathering wherein they had draped the LGBTQ+ pride flag over the Veterans Memorial stones and plaques, which sit at the center driveway in the middle of Town Hall, right in front of this building. Let me be clear, I have absolutely no issue with the freedom and the right of anyone at all to assemble and speak in public. But I really surely do take serious issue with those who would drape their cause over the honored memorials of those men and women who died for their freedom to do so. I respectfully ask for this body to review the Town Hall security cameras in order to find out who commissioned such a despicable act. The irony that any group would cover up a Civil War veterans memorial on Juneteenth of all days is unbelievably brazen, selfish, and insensitive. You have effectively dishonored the very soldiers who died in service to ending slavery, which we should be rightfully celebrating their accomplishment and their memory today. I think that we should endeavor to unite and respect all citizens of Darien, and I would hope that we could agree that supporting one cause should never, ever, ever come at the cost of infringing on the respect of another, least of all, those who have died to preserve our freedom. Thank you.
Maggie?
Hi, I'm Maggie Ramsey, and I live at 229 Long Neck Point Road. I graduated from DHS last year, captain of the soccer and basketball teams, and a 4-year player on Varsity Wave Girls Lax. I was also co-president of the youth asset team here in Darien and helped lead many DEI events at the high school. Although I've been away in California at school, I wanted to get re-involved in the community this summer, and I'm currently interning with the Darien Community Fund. Like I said, in the last time I spoke out against homophobia in Darien at the Board of Education meeting last fall, I'm not telling you these things to brag. I'm telling you these things so that you have an understanding of how involved I was and still am in our community. So that you have an understanding that queer people like myself are not a small, irrelevant group of people who do not contribute to this community, but people who should be recognized and valued for their contributions to a society that has never celebrated their existence. I'm here because although I cannot change my experience in Darien, maybe I can change a future queer kid's experience in Darien. While I was in high school, I was slurred, pushed, shoved, had a can thrown at my head, a drink splashed in my face, and even parents who told their kids that they couldn't be friends with me anymore. Our town made it hard for me to live, let alone thrive. However, I just finished my freshman year playing lacrosse at University of Southern California, and it was everything I could have hoped for and more. Not only was I going to a school that went out of their way that went out of their way to make their minority students feel welcome, I was on a team where diversity, equity, and inclusion was necessary to our team culture and our success on the field. My team, as well as every other team at USC, had to go to multiple mandatory DEI meetings every semester and workshops to work on our acceptance, understanding, and love for groups of people who were different from us. We acted out skits, talked in big and small groups, watched TED Talks, PowerPoints, movies, and everyone did it with a positive attitude. These events and the meetings were fun and something all of us looked forward to. They made the people in these groups who had been affected by homophobia, racism, misogyny, xenophobia, sexism, anti-Semitism, and other hateful things feel like their school and their community was going above and beyond to make sure that they felt safe and welcome. That their school and community knows that life as a person who is part of a minority is a lot harder, and that they need more representation and support. It is not just enough to support in silence. The support must be loud and clear. USC has made that support loud and clear. On most teams, USC has a pride game, wear a custom rainbow shirt, which I'm wearing right now, and my dad, are made for each sport to warm up in. For my team, we also got rainbow sweatbands and rainbow tape to put on our sticks. I will never forget how excited I was in the locker room getting ready for game day. My teammates all coming up to me and my other queer teammates to wish us a happy Pride game. All laughing and making jokes, just excited to go play. I remember sitting down, getting ready to meditate in the locker room before the game. Everyone went silent, put their heads down, and closed their eyes as our coach started talking, but I was too excited to shut mine. I looked around the room beaming. On every single one of my teammates' wrists or sticks was something rainbow. Everyone had their uniform on with their Pride shirt over top. Only a few of my teammates are in the LGBTQ community, but everyone made sure those people knew they weren't alone. I know a few rainbow shirts and tapes seem silly, but representation matters in every form. Our Pride game this year was one of the best days of my life because I never felt so seen, so safe, and so heard. Coming from Darien to an environment like USC has been the best decision of my life. But why should students have to wait until college to be living their best life and most authentic life? Why do I always hear you are going to thrive in college, being said to kids who are different than the norm? Why can't these kids thrive now? That's how it should be. Now, I'm not saying this speech to bash Darien and say USC does everything right, because they don't. But improvements can always be made, and they are making these steps to continue improving. But a lot of improvement needs to be made in Darien, and it does not seem like there are any strides being taken to do so. Almost every town in Fairfield County flies the Pride flag. Greenwich, Fairfield, Westport, Weston, Bridgeport, Easton, Ridgefield, Norwalk, and Stamford all fly the Pride flag. And we used to fly the Pride flag, but then stopped. We were moving backwards. Not flying a Pride flag anymore sends a message to our LGBTQ plus youth that they do not matter, that their identity and place in society does not matter. Maybe they matter in these other towns, but they don't matter here. That is what you are telling them. It is such a simple and small ask, but representation goes a long way. Seeing a flag fly that represents you can go a long way. If we can do such a simple thing to make our youth feel as happy as I did on that day, sitting in the locker room, why wouldn't we? I urge you all to vote to fly the Pride flag here in Darien for the rest of the month, so that every kid who is a part of the LGBTQ community can visibly see that their life matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, everyone that spoke. Is there anyone here that didn't sign up that wants to speak? Yes?
Would I be okay? Hi. My name is Sophie Howard. I live 1 Duffy's Lane near Henley Elementary School, where I went to school. I did not plan to come to this meeting, but felt the need to, so I would wonder if there's like a time limit for speaking, just so I could be aware right now and put it on my phone.
No, you just go ahead.
Okay, cool. Well, I didn't plan to come to this meeting. My lovely mother did. But I've spent my entire life in Darien, since preschool, elementary school at Henley, middle school at Middlesex, and high school at Darien High School, where I graduated in 2020. And I wanted to tell you guys a little story. At age 14, I got to dye my hair red. And it was the best day of my life, because I got to dye my hair red, which is so cool if you're 14. And when I got to school, I got to run up to my friends and tell them that my mom let me, and look at my red hair. I had stains all over my hands because I'd done it myself, and I was so happy. And I wanted to let you know that because of that, I was never allowed to come out when I was younger. When I dyed my hair red, and when I wore the clothes I'd worn, I wore little skull decals on my jackets, and I wore bands that I really liked, people decided that I was gay. It was a cold shot that was right. I came out as bisexual to my parents, I came out as bisexual to my family, I came out as bisexual to my current partner who I met in high school. The rest of the world decided that for me. They came out for me before I was allowed to tell anyone. which impacted everything of my life. It impacted my safety, it impacted my school, it impacted my ability to exist in rooms at a place that I had to go to because it was school. I experienced, honestly, homophobia that wasn't even correctly aimed towards me. I was called a lesbian in much more evil words. I was called transgender in much more evil words. Just because kids saw me as an easy target. Because I dyed my hair red. Even if you do not come out publicly, you are in danger when you are queer. If you decide to be yourself, if you decide to be happy in your body, if you decide to show people the inner you that you think is so beautiful, decide to dye your hair red, decide to wear a rainbow, decide to dress a little too gay, you are immediately in danger. And when you don't feel safe to do that, you're just as much in danger. Because the pressure cooker starts, and eventually it's going to blow. And if you're lucky, you end up in therapy. If you're not so lucky, you are a danger to yourself. You experience some of the worst inner turmoil you can, and that's only speaking for me. I'm white. I'm not transgender. All I did was dye my hair red. And I was in danger from the minute that people wouldn't speak to me in group activities, from the moment that people stared at me as I walked home from school, from the moment that I was yelled at in the bus, the day I dyed my hair red, and told that I looked like several slurs that I can't even say. The way that we fix this, the way that we keep kids safe, the way that I could have been kept safe, is by normalizing this. Because those 12-year-olds on a bus never read what the first selectman gives out, and that's just because they're 12-year-olds, and they're on a bus, and they want to play Pokemon cards. What they do see is a pride flag outside the town hall. They don't read the newspaper, they don't do all these things, they aren't impacted by whatever words you all choose to say. They are only impacted by what they see right in front of them. And had I had a pride flag in front of my school, in front of the town hall, maybe I would have been safer. Frankly, I really do think I would have been safer. And this has nothing to do with even the safety of my siblings of color, my siblings who are trans. They are in 100% more danger than me. And I could sit around and talk about how kids yelled at me in high school, and I had several experiences where my physical safety was in danger. But I could never, in my entire life, ever encapsulate the real danger that happens to people more vulnerably than me any day. Because I can't even conceive of it. Thank you.
Ryan?
Ryan Fleener. I'm the rector of St. Luke's Parish. I live at 27 Rings End Road.
You're going to need to spell that for me.
Sure. Fleener, F as in Frank, L-E-E-N-O-R.
And I'm sorry.
Ryan.
No, I got that. Didn't trust.
27 Rings End Road.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for making this space and to hear from our incredible youth. And I was debating whether I wanted to add my voice. And so I just want to tell a story about my own experience with the flag in town and my own process of changing my mind as a way of thinking about a way to invite you to think about perhaps changing yours. My husband Dan and I moved to town 3 years ago during the pandemic when we didn't know many people in town, and my understanding is that was the first time the pride flag flew here in Darien, and it was moving to us as people new to the area to see a welcome and an embrace from our new home, and it meant a lot. It meant a lot to not feel alone. It meant a lot to see the town that we now called home and we're committing ourselves to, committing themselves to us. I'm speaking on my own as a citizen, not as the rector of a church, but I am the rector of a church that flew a pride flag long before I got here. And honestly, and this is the part about changing one's mind, I wondered whether it needed to fly the pride flag all the time. I thought maybe June is enough. Maybe it doesn't need to fly in July through May. And I had some members of the congregation ask the same question, and I said, it's interesting. I'm not sure it should. And then our teenagers started coming and started telling me what it meant to them to see their church fly that flag. And then I had members of the community who weren't members of our congregation, who belonged to other churches in town or no churches in town, who took me out to lunch to tell me what it meant to drive down the post road and see the flag fly at a church. And that changed my mind about why it's so important for communities and institutions that have not historically been supportive to be out in front in showing support. Churches have not always lived up to our best ideals of proclaiming the love of God for all people. This town, like so many communities, and on this Juneteenth, we remember that this town and so many parts of our country have not always embraced all people. How much more responsibility do we then have to do whatever we can to show our support, our welcome, and our love? I'm not a lawyer. I know that making a policy that is right for a community is complicated, and there are factors that you all have to weigh that we don't have to wrestle with. But I would ask you to wrestle and ask you to think about whether this is some way in which the words that you have so lovingly offered, and I know that are in your heart, can be made manifest for our community. It would mean a lot, not just to the people in this room, not just to the citizens of this town, but to all who pass by. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't sign up to speak, but I'm here.
Go ahead, your name?
Richard Thomas, 16 Mayflower Road. I've lived in this town for 8 years, moved here from New York. My wife grew up here in town, was hesitant to move back to this town for the reasons everyone's explained. It's just one of those things where be better humans, do the right thing. It's not hard to ask. Like, be better humans. Like, do you want to be looked at in history like Bull Connor, like Governor George Wallace? Or to be looked at as decent people? Like, you hear what these kids go through. What's wrong? Like, wake up. There's a huge world outside of this tiny little town, which is lovely, and there's amazing people here. But the fact that people, friends, get their flags stolen off their yard, kids are ridiculed in school, just do better. Be better humans. We all live here. Welcome people, let people feel proud. Like, actions speak louder than words. Just do better. Also, you mentioned Juneteenth, you said lovely things. But actions speak louder than words. It's a federal holiday. Why are you working today? Like, do better.
Hi. My name is Teddy Garcia, Teddy. I live at 255 Tokenique Road in Darien, Connecticut. I'm a Darien resident. I have been for years. My home is here. I've been here for 15 years. I've been here for 15 years. I've graduated high school in class of 2020. I played field hockey for the majority of my life. I'm so blessed to be a part of this town's incredible field hockey program, and did Theater 308 for years. And and I'm currently lucky enough to go to school at the University of Vermont in Burlington, Vermont, which I am very proud to say is extraordinarily welcoming and accepting of people like me, the transgender person that I am. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for here. Because I'm 20 years old now, I'm a lot more adjusted in my identity than I used to be. But before I was 20 years old, a civil engineering major, I was 10 years old. I was crying myself to sleep at night and praying to God that I would still have friends after I chose to come out. And in some cases, I didn't. That decision cost me a lot of people in my life. And then I was 13 years old, getting called names and slurs that I wouldn't care to repeat on the bus ride home. And then I was 15 years old, 16 years old, 17 years old, being ostracized and left out of extracurricular activities that I should have felt safe in because of the person that I am, right? And I can tell you this because we are in very different positions, you and me. I'm in the position to tell you what it's like to be a queer trans youth in this town. And you are in a position to do something about it, right? And so let's pull up some statistics here, actually. Let's talk about the real danger that people like me are in. Because this might not be so visible to people like you, but we are, and by we I mean the LGBT community, at an incredible risk of verbal, physical, and sexual violence and harassment from other people. The hate crimes from 2020 to 2021 against the LGBT community went up 54%. 2020, 2021 hate crimes against the transgender community went up 29%. And that doesn't even factor in race, right? Like, there's a lot of, like, people of color like me within the LGBT community face the risk of this at a much, much higher rate than, say, white people. And it is up to people like you, people in government positions of power, to show that it is okay to be this way, to be trans, to be queer, to be gay, to be who you are. And you can do your part in stopping this violence and this harassment from happening. And let me tell you this. This is just my experience, right? And, you know, I'm in college now. But I can guarantee you that this hasn't changed. There are children in this town that are crying themselves to sleep at night. There are children in this town who are getting called slurs, who are getting harassed, who are getting physically assaulted. Because it's okay to do so. Because people get away with doing so. And it's up to people like you to show that it's not. Thank you for your time.
My name is Jack Douglas. I live on 9 Beach Drive here. So basically, when I was like in the summer of 4th grade, I moved to Darien from Los Angeles, and a few of my friends were part of the LGBTQ community, and they are lucky enough to live in a supporting place where they can be like recognized as who they are. But unlucky for some kids here, that they don't really get what some of my friends in LA had, because like some people said, like their struggles, like some kids are going through that here. And what one person said, like that some people were like doing something bad to like the veterans thing, as like they shouldn't have done that, but just like they're bad people in every group, like LGBTQ, black people, white people, Asian people, straight people. So instead of just like focusing on like the bad and the hate of this group, you should be focusing on like the love and the passions.
Anyone else?
We're gonna hold hands, because neither of us like hugs.
Good evening. I'm Susie Walker. I reside at 2 Coves End Road in Darien.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
The address or my
Yeah.
name? 2 Coves End Road.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey guys. It's so nice to see everybody here. I have the privilege tonight. I am here as a mom. I'm here as a sister of two amazing boys who grew up in a Friday Night Lights farm community in Wisconsin. The struggles with their mental health from being in a community that was not inclusive, that did not show them that they mattered, that they were represented. My house was very different, but they did have to leave the house at some point. Fast forward 30 years later, my home is not a place where I grew up, is not a place where my brothers feel safe as adults to come and visit. So I'm gonna play the long game. I want Darien to be a place where my daughter wants to come home and remembers it as a welcome, supportive community. The flag represents, it's a marker, it shows you're included, it's a safe place. We do live in a time where safe places are getting reduced pretty quickly. So I would just like to ask briefly that you guys reconsider, bring back the flag for the rest of the month. Thank you.
All right, I'm Sherry Ramsey, 229 Long Neck Point Road, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear everyone's comments. I'm so proud of everyone who stood up and spoke. Teddy. Hi. Teddy was my former player on Blue Wave Field Hockey. So I'll try to keep it brief, although there have been so many good points that I'd love to reiterate. One of which actually was yours, Monica, which was in your proclamation where you talked about that honoring June 19th is a continuation of our journey to be a more inclusive community. And I would just encourage you to keep playing that forward with, as you can see, this community who's represented. And that's a little bit about what I wanted to talk about was, you know, statistics say roughly 7% of a population is identifies as LGBTQ plus. You know, Darien has a population as of 2018 over 21,000 people. So just do the math on that alone, and you're talking about that there's at least 152 people here in town who identify with the community. And that's not even just our youth. I mean, our youth are the ones we're worried most about, but those are adults, those are workers who come to work in our town. Those are parents of those kids going through that experience. So add, you know, if there's 152, add 304 parents, and now you're getting up towards 500 people alone. And even just one person, it shouldn't be a thing of numbers. Even if there's just one person in this community that feels threatened and in danger and not welcome and not wanting to be part of this community, I think it's a tremendous loss of talent to lose those part of our community, to not have them want to come here, move here, if you get a reputation of our town of intolerance, to not want to stay here, go get an education and come back and contribute your engineering and your whatever skills and talents are to our town. You know, our people are our best commodity, and we can be awesome, but we need to encourage that amongst our community. So I just encourage you to revisit flying it this month and every June moving forward, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else for public comment? No? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Kate, did you get any comments, email?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to discuss and take action on a request to amend revocable license agreement for Grove Street open space. Kate, you wanna? Okay, why don't you wait until people file out? Thank you for coming.
I thought there was a connection.
Oh, what do you need? Are you
The
wanting
USB connection, can I use this one?
Yeah.
Well, that's already wired.
Yeah.
Monica, would you mind if I went and get some water while you plug in? Sorry.
Attorney Maslin, I'm going to have Kate kick this off, okay?
Pardon me?
I'm going to have Kate kick this off.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to get my PowerPoint teed up so we can just keep the flow going.
And we're going to wait, Sarah just ran off too, for a minute.
Well, that's nice.
Here's my slide.
Okay, so, back when Grove Street Plaza was built, and you have the information in your packet from the resolution back in 2003, there was an agreement made that gave the town basically control over the plaza as open space. And we have a request before us currently to amend that license agreement to allow for dining in that public space. There is some area, and you had, I believe in your packets, you had a layout.
Yep.
So there's some area that as of right, under state law, they'll be able to have outdoor dining. But actually, if you look what Bob's put up on the screen, the yellow space is a space that the town would have to give permission to allow them to use for outdoor dining. And so I think he's going to give you much better.
So when did the governor change that? Was it May?
The state law just changed this spring.
So was this application put in before the law was
I believe
changed?
it was put in and then held because of the pending change.
Because of the change. Okay. Okay, go ahead, attorney.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Maslin. I'm the attorney for Grove Street Plaza. I'm going to go back one slide because it's got everybody's name on it. With me, Shed Glassmeyer. He's Penny's son. Penny Glassmeyer. I'm sure you all have heard of Penny Glassmeyer. Can't be here to follow through on these. Penny and I worked on this project long before it was built, assembling properties and eventually developing the site. With me also, where is Chip Grabowski from Harvest Restaurant Group is the prospective tenant in the space that was previously occupied by the Melting Pot, which was the original tenant in this space. And David Genovese is here, who is helping us along here, but he's really not the main driving force. So as Kate mentioned, this yellow area is the dedicated public plaza as it was laid out when this site was first approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And you'll see areas to the left and right between the yellow area and the buildings where it's plaza. There are trees there, small trees. There's some landscaping. There's a fountain in the middle. And you'll see additionally a sidewalk area along Grove Street, which is also open to the public, but it's not formally dedicated as such. So before I get into what the specific proposal is here, I'd like Shed to just talk for a couple of seconds about Penny's history in the project and where we are today.
Good evening. Shed Glassmeyer, 8 Woods End Road here in town. So thank you for hearing us out here. So in short, as you know, my mother, Penny, she was all about creating beautiful spaces out of spaces that maybe weren't so beautiful prior to her involvement. And, you know, when this project was completed in 2005, you know, I don't think outdoor seating was as contemplated. And, you know, we built this beautiful place with a fountain and chairs all around. But it's kind of, with all this movement towards outdoor dining, it came to us like, what are we doing? We have this beautiful space that really, after it's very well visited in the morning, through lunch, early afternoon, but come late afternoon, the evening, it's really not frequented much by the public. And we saw this opportunity to bring in Harvest and a restaurant that is, it's going to be called Roots Ocean Prime. There's another Roots Ocean Prime in Princeton. I don't want to steal your show. But that would take full advantage of this beautiful setting for dining. So, and I'll let Bob get into it, but the short of it is we're looking for the Board of Selectmen to approve dining in the public portion of the plaza only during dinner hours. So the thought is, and we can go through the progression, should we just do this in tandem, or do you wanna?
Well, I could probably walk through these. Okay, so as I mentioned, the yellow part is the dedicated public plaza. And the dedicated public plaza is by way of an easement, and all it says is that this area shall be open to the public. That's really all it does. And it was a function of the zoning regulations, in effect, that enabled Penny to add a third floor to one of the buildings, and that's really all it is. There's no specific rules in it about what you can do, what you can't do. But in 2010, the melting pot with the owner and with, I believe, Espresso Neat was there then, came to the Board of Selectmen and went through the process. And at that time, the board approved use of the public plaza area for the space between the fountain and Grove Street for the placement of 3 tables and 12 chairs. And they were for use by the melting pot and by Espresso Neat, but all day. There was no time frame built into it. There was a revocable license agreement between the town and the players here, the Melting Pot, Espresso Neat, and Grove Street Plaza, the property owner, and those chairs and tables went in. I don't think the Melting Pot ever really used that the way they intended originally, because the way the Melting Pot is set up, it's kind of hard to put fondue equipment out on a table out in the plaza. But on the other hand, people buy their coffee at Espresso Neat and sit out at these tables every morning when the weather's nice. And the tables and chairs have been there. There are a couple of chairs that are in different locations, and I think they're located without really strict adherence to where the boundaries are of the public plaza easement area. But the tables and chairs that are there now are open to the public. And what's proposed here is to place tables and chairs up here and down here in the public plaza that will be open to the public up until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we'd like to have that reserved for the Harvest, the new Harvest restaurant for the remainder of the dinner hour. And the next day, we're back to open public. So what I made here are a couple of slides. You have attached to my letter one sheet that has color codings down at the bottom. And what I did was match the shading in the plaza to the notations below. So up until lunchtime, this entire green area is open to the public. And that runs up until about noontime. During lunch hours, the public plaza part of this is still open to the public, as is the area to the left in this plan. And that's for lunch through.
Yep.
And the restaurant.
Yep. Yeah, the purple is directly attached to the restaurant. under the new statute, which took effect May 1st, the restaurant has an av-right accessory use of that under section 8-1 CC. So that's lunchtime. And you're still open to the public in the middle. The third breakdown here is dinner hours, and you still have green on the left. And for these hours, the pink is Harvest Restaurant. And that's basically it. And that runs from 5 o'clock until the restaurant closes. And I think obviously all of this is weather permitting. It's seasonal. It's subject to whatever the Liquor Control Commission is going to require in terms of serving tables outdoors. They used to be pretty strict about barriers in outdoor areas where liquor was served, but not so much anymore because of COVID. They've changed their outlook on things. I got to say, COVID changed a lot. And one of the things that changed as a result of COVID was the permanent outdoor seating arrangements under the new statute. Under the original COVID declarations and governor's orders and all of that, outdoor dining became possible, but it was on a temporary basis, and now it's permanent. So really what we're asking for here is to be allowed to put tables and seats in the public plaza area for use 24/7, seasonal, obviously seasonal and weather permitting. And that amounts to 24, 4, 8, 12, 24, 24 seats, 8 tables. And that's really twice as many seats as you approved before, and more than twice the number of tables, because before you had 3 tables for 4. Now, it's 2 tables. Actually, here down, you still have 12 seats. Instead of 3 tables with 4 each, it's 2 4s and 2 2s. And that's, the board in 2010 approved that. From the fountain up, you have another same thing, 2 4s, 2 2s. And again, open to the public. And at about 5 o'clock today, I took a walk through the plaza, and someone was actually sitting at one of the tables. Nothing was open. The espresso was closed. The bread place was closed. The melting pot was obviously closed. There was a construction machine that was lifting workers up to work on the upper level on the right-hand building. And yet, some member of the public is sitting at a table with a laptop making use of the public plaza. So this has become, and by the way, there was a sign advertising this, what do you call it, David? The summer concept? What do you call it?
Darien Summer Nights.
Darien Summer Nights, where people are invited to gather. And these tables and chairs are for that. This is still going to be a very popular public area. The only thing, as I said, we're asking is to allow Harvest to use the public plaza portion for the dinner hours, seasonal weather permitting, on conditions that would be similar to the original revocable license agreement, which required indemnity and insurance, and the parties that would use it would sign off on it, the landowner, the restaurant, and so forth. And that's it in a nutshell. Chip?
Can I add one thing first?
Step up.
Hi. So one thing we contemplated, obviously, is, so this would be lunch, right? And then we could obviously put people here for dinner as well, right? To stay out of the public plaza. It's our property, serve lunch, dinner, but it just didn't seem to make sense to have these two parts of the plaza, waiters going back and forth. So it just seemed like the logical solution to have them compacted. We're trying to respect the use that the public's adopted of the plaza, where it's really heavy in the daytime, like in the morning, midday, into the early afternoon, and then it peters out. So we're trying to kind of move, like I said, move the use of the plaza for the restaurant in sync with the use of the plaza by the public. So with that, why don't we bring up Chip, who is the owner of Harvest Restaurant Group, and he can at least just give you a little breakdown on what he's looking to do.
Good evening. Well, first, Chester Grabowski, I don't know if I have to give my name, but I'm the founder of Harvest Restaurant Group. We function right now only in New Jersey. We have 13 locations as south as Princeton. 2 are actually on Princeton's campus, and then we go all the way up into Bergen County into Ridgewood. We have about 900 employees. It's a family business. My wife and I started it back in 1996, and my 3 children are now actively involved in it. We're very excited about coming to Darien. Most of all our locations are in downtowns, very similar to Darien, a lot on the train line. We're a company that loves to get involved in the community. We're very active in the New Jersey Food Bank and have been for 25 years. But it's very important for us to get actively involved in the communities. We're, again, excited to get here. Outside dining is vital. I don't think we have a location that does not have outside dining. Obviously through COVID, I know it changed a lot to outside dining, but from day one, we always wanted balance between the summer months and the winter months. So wherever we were, we either built a porch onto one of our buildings or we had adjacent outside dining. But it is vital to us. And then just lastly, in our designs, how we build our restaurants, we like to build them to stand the test of time. We're not very trendy. We use brick, stone, mahogany, earth tone colors. We keep things very simple. Maybe too objective, we don't have TVs in any of our restaurants. We're about the art of conversation, family, business, whatever it is. But like I said, we're not at 27 years. We're hoping to come here into Connecticut and be an asset to the community here in Darien. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but I know you have a long night here.
No questions for you, but thank you for considering Darien.
Thank you. God bless.
Wait, I have some questions, so let me know when
Okay.
If anybody's wondering, because I know the questions come up before. Up there, people would be able to come and sit at the fountain during the evening hours. That the public will always have some access directly to the fountain itself. That was a concern at zoning, I know. And that's basically what we have.
I do want to say, just to make the record clear, that this board did not approve that. So that was approved in 2010 by obviously a
Right,
totally
so
different
obviously it was a
group.
different.
Right, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll open it up to the board. Any questions?
Well, I'll start, and I just, like, 3 quickly. I know you mentioned the dinner hour or dinner hours. What would the time exactly be when it would then cease?
Talk into this.
I'm sorry. I mean,
No worries. All our operations are normally by 10 o'clock, 10:30. We have no late night bar action or anything like that in any of our locations. It's more for dinner. So that outside dining, our kitchens are open till 10, but like I said, usually by 9:30, most of our patrons have already dined.
My next question, and thank you for your counsel. So when you talk about shall be open to the public, I mean, you're actually asking for a period of time where it's not open to the public, because it's not open to everybody. It would just be open to patrons. So does that not, in some ways, contra the that guidance or that ruling shall be open to the public.
Well, the zoning approval and the original dedication document did basically say in accordance with the zoning approval, and it also is
Okay.
it means it's subject to planning and zoning.
All right.
And if
Okay.
planning and zoning approves it, then we need your approval, obviously.
And then
But it was all done
question-
once before,
Okay.
obviously with town council involved back in 2010. So
And just-
legally, that's the way.
And I appreciate it, but that's what I was wondering, what was that kind of weigh-in, if you will. My last question was, so assuming that we approve this, then what scenario occurs if management or business plans change in the other properties and they're no longer a coffee place that's open until whatever time, in the bakery that's morning traffic, and there are other ongoing restaurants or something that comes in there, and then they were looking for access to that public area as well?
Come in
The
back
beautiful
here.
thing here is we own 14 and 20 Grove Street, so we have total control over all the tenants. And one thing we discussed previously was potentially if there was a hang-up on this using the public space, we could designate a different portion of the plaza as public as well. If that was important, to make sure that a portion of the plaza remained public and was never used, let's say, for dining service, we could potentially shift the public portion over here. But obviously, that wouldn't be in keeping with this beautiful fountain and whatnot. But that's just an alternative.
You know what, I appreciate, Shed, you thinking out of the box on that one, because I really do have a concern with this is a public plaza, and you're taking away a major thoroughfare between that parking lot and Grove Street. And as I understand this public plaza was set up because the third floor was granted. And this was supposed to be for public use. And now it's not really being used for public use. It's being used for a restaurant, which I appreciate all restaurants coming here for sure. But it no longer is a public plaza from 5 p.m. till midnight or whatever hours. So
The green part, even though it's not part of the formally dedicated public plaza, that's still open to the public. And that's
right.
a route to get.
Yeah, but
to
you
get
know,
back.
when I go over there and I see, I see the barricades, and then I see where I think your initial was, maybe additional tables over there. But, people that live in Darien, they're very polite, and they're not going to want to walk down into that pink area and then take a left or a right to get, or I guess a right to get onto the green. So I think people are just not going to want to enter that area at all. Yeah, David, from the top, I'm talking about from the top, yeah. So when you come in there, I don't think people are going to really want to do, instead, they're going to walk through the parking lot if they want to get over to the other side of Grove Street,
I'm not sure.
Monica, we've been very, we've thought through this endless hours about how to ensure that flow remains, and this is wide open here.
I'm talking about the other end.
So then through here as well.
Right. So I feel like when you walk into that area, you're walking into those tables, and people aren't going to feel comfortable doing that when there's a white tablecloth on a table. They're going to want to, they'll be polite and they'll walk through the parking lots.
I hear your concern. I do think there is sufficient space, though, from the entry from the parking lot into the plaza across between the table. And that's, I think, part of why deliberately we set just 2 tops in that area, not 4 tops in both. We could have put 4 top tables, further there and added more capacity for harvest, but we didn't deliberately to create some space. We also pulled some tables out from the residence entry. But the one key thing I just want to point out, because when we talked about how to approach this, when Penny designed the project and worked with Bob, we totally agree with you, Monica, on, you know, the point around, you know, the public plaza easement was given so that the third floor could be built. But keep in mind, I would ask you to keep in mind that the public plaza, when she designed it, she didn't anticipate the uses of these buildings. Originally, it was the melting pot that was only open at dinner. It wasn't originally open at lunch. A cosmetic store and a kids' clothing store. The two other businesses failed, and we were fortunate enough to find espresso neat and then ultimately flour, water, salt, which I think we'd all agree, for those of you who've seen it and witnessed it, that really brought this plaza to life. And the way in which the Glassmeyers have operated the plaza, they don't really pay attention to that strip of land that's considered public plaza. The whole place has been public plaza for the better part, almost 20 years. And in the morning, and the intention is not to change this and actually add tables. In the morning and really through lunch, there will be more tables for the public as public plaza, including that green area that Shed was pointing out. It's only at night that we're saying, when the usage, if you really watch it, is so minimal, that Harvest would have the right to put those eight or so tables up. So I think, you know, the point that Shed was making was, if Penny had thought about it, if she had a crystal ball and she could have seen where we were headed, she probably would have said, let's put the public plaza on the left side alongside Espresso Neat and Flour, Water, Salt, and make the rest of it, you know, property for the benefit of the tenants. But, you know, we are where we are. She didn't envision this change in use over 20 years. And I'm sure there'll be other changes over the next 20 years. And we'll be here, or Shed will be here, you know, to talk to you about it, or your successors. But I think when you look at it, we're actually creating a better public resource with more seating throughout the course of the day and night, on average, than what exists today. We've looked at this so many different ways, and I'm very confident in that. So I don't think the public will be disappointed and feel as if something was taken away. To the contrary, I think Harvest, you know, talk to friends who, when we've done it, talk to friends who live in New Jersey about the reputation of Harvest and what they do. They have a stellar reputation. We're so excited that they want to come to Darien.
A couple questions. I'm going to stand up so I can show these lines here. Please tell me that they're not being used for tables, that this is just to explain the colors?
No, those are references.
They're just for use to explain the colors?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So Grove Street still remains a street because we really need that to repair. Okay. My second question.
Oh, and the sidewalk is still there as well.
Yeah, okay, well, you've got some tables there, so I don't know how far out that's going to come.
4 feet.
And how wide is this sidewalk?
It's about 15. From the building, it's roughly 12 or 15. So there's, the rule is you need 4 feet, and then you have to have 4 feet of passage for sidewalk. I believe that's what the statute says. We're way over that on the width of the sidewalk.
Okay.
And then it's only tables for 2, so it's.
Okay. And then my last question is, look, we've had conversations in this board about outdoor seating, and David, I appreciate you guys come and you respect what we've asked, right? Not everybody does. And next thing you know, there's tables kind of just getting a little here, just a little bit, and it's frustrating because, you know, we make a decision as a board and we try to make very careful decisions, and if this board decides to grant that, I would beg and please stay within the lines, because it is frustrating, because we do try to marry the public need and with what you guys are looking to do.
Can I suggest something that might answer your
Sure.
Your point? There's a fellow sitting here, 3rd row all the way on the right.
Yes, but Jeremy's not responsible for what the restaurants do.
But
yes, but the restaurants are responsible for that.
We're going to be under a zoning approval for this.
Correct. But you have to police yourselves.
Sure, well, of course. You know, oddly enough, the statute does not put a limit on the number of tables or seats. It doesn't even say you have to add parking. It exempts you from parking. The statute's extremely broad. I understand what you're saying, and if we're talking just about within that public plaza area, I mean, that's really, as a practical matter, I think that's all you can fit. And I doubt that there's going to have enough customers that, you know, there'll be a waiting line.
In fairness, we'll respect whatever's approved.
Obviously, we have to do it, you know, and if it says.
I just need to say it because we've had the conversation
Sure.
as a board. Yeah.
For sure, and if it's, I mean, it's obviously gonna be, this is what we're proposing, and if you're okay with it, then we have to stay within that. And the Planning and Zoning Commission, I think, is waiting to hear from you. Because we have our application pending there, they haven't made their final decision yet. And, you know, if you, as a Board of Selectmen, say, you know, this layout and only this layout, then that's gonna go into the zoning approval. And then the fellow in the third row is gonna have his zoning enforcement officer come out and enforce it if there's any violations of that.
I would just add that in the conversations that we've had with P&Z, we've actually they've honed in on a very specific number of tables at a maximum and location. So
Awesome.
I think
Thank you,
both Harvest and Glassbars are totally fine with that.
Thank you. Marcy?
Sure. I just have comment and question.
Sure.
Certainly, I support any business coming to this town and trying to make Darien our home, in particular family businesses. I'm a family business owner myself, and I know that sometimes we need to take a look at things from a different perspective. So certainly I want to ensure that if you choose to come here, that you are incredibly successful, because this town would certainly be welcoming to a fine establishment, as we've heard from you guys. That's A. B, would you be flexible in the, I mean, you're asking for 7 days a week. Do we really need to keep that plaza closed off for 7 days a week? Or maybe we should consider Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, or a time when the restaurant is going to be more in need for that space than what it currently has. You know, a Wednesday night, are you going to need those tables cut off from public access? Just things to consider as we start to, kind of dive into some different ideas on this.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Boy, we're busy 7 nights. I mean, I'm just, in comparison to other locations, it's 7, our Monday night can be a Friday night.
Okay.
I'm not sure that is the case here in Darien, but just the history would be from us, from our other locations, that, like I said, we're busy pretty much 7 nights a week.
Okay.
I hate to say this, but this is kind of like the Yogi Berra rule. Nobody goes there, it's always too crowded. It's going to police itself, because, you know, people aren't going to go there if it's all really jammed. So I mean, that's another way to look at it.
But just to address your question, I think we'll do our very best, if it is a quiet night, not to have the tablecloth so far out, right? We'll rein it in closer to the restaurant. And there are going to be so many nights when it's too hot, it's too cool. So it's those perfect nights where there'll be outdoor dining.
I know Yogi also said it gets late very early out there.
Any other questions?
I really struggle with.
Did we have somebody on remote, or did
Yeah.
that connection?
He's no longer with us.
It's Don where he is.
Yeah.
Close to it, yeah.
So I just so I understand, I think I understand probably, is right now there's what outside that area, like 6 tables that are currently in the entire space?
Something like that,
Yeah, I
yeah.
counted them tonight before I came. And I just want to make sure that we're clear, is that the whole left side of there, which is approximately, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 tables, will still be for the public use. So I don't know if that helps. I think it's actually increasing the amount of tables that are in the public area than currently. If that's a plus, and I think it also exposes this, you do get the whole left side of the fountain, which I think is important for everybody to have access to the fountain. But like I said, I think you're still getting 14, I think you're getting almost double the amount of tables that are there currently.
The only difference is they've been there haphazardly without any reservation for years.
And that's all day and night, right? That never changes. Those 14 tables are there day and night. Right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So Shep, go back to the idea of using the green space as tables and leaving the center space still as public. public plaza space.
Well, I mean, there's the idea that you potentially provide dining. So obviously we'd keep the lunch to this side, right? But at dinner, as demand warrants, we could potentially have dining over here as well. And to stay out of the public plaza, it just seems like for poor Chip, we're trying to run a business, it just seems kind of weird running across a public plaza. If there are people there to be going through people, I would think you'd want it together in the most efficient way. But yeah, that's unfortunately kind of the curse of having a very successful plaza where, I mean, when this plaza was built, like, my mother went above and beyond in building this fountain. You know, I don't think that was the requirement for building a third floor. This fountain then attracted people and has become something that the public loves. And once again, we have really thought through this a lot, and we've focused on when the usage is highest. And having Harvest comes in really complements when the usage is highest. So it's public when the usage is highest in the morning and the early part of the day, and then it becomes quiet, and then the restaurant would come in. And if you think about it, we're trying to maximize the enjoyment for the community. And the reality is, a heck of a lot of people from our community will be out there dining, enjoying the beautiful space of outdoor dining. And what more could you ask for on a perfect summer night? So, with that.
Yeah, I just struggle with, you know, this agreement from 2003, I read it as a third floor was granted because of the public plaza. And now I read that we're giving up the public plaza for kind of no benefit to the community, except for the dining experience.
And right, in all due respect, right now, look at what was built at Darien Commons. Is there any public plaza that was built there? Anything? Nothing. Not a public space, not a green space other than trees, you know, dotted that they're going to wheel in. I really, really struggle with you all penalizing our family for building this beautiful place. And here you all, with all the knowledge you've had, allow Darien Commons to go in with no green space. None. So we just ask, we built this beautiful place. Could you please, please, please consider just a usage on the most beautiful nights when it's perfect for dining to allow dining in the public portion. Sorry if it just.
Yeah, and Shep, we had nothing to do with Darien Commons, this group, so just to be clear there, okay?
I mean, I guess just to finish, the third floor requirement was a thing of the past, right?
No, it's still there.
You still have to build,
Yeah.
so where's the?
They have public places, it's just not as great as Grove Street Plaza. But the one point I was saying, and maybe I wasn't clear, was that with the green area, I mean, another alternative, Monica, if you're worried about that, is, you know, we're not trying to take away from the public. We sincerely believe, you can agree or disagree, but we sincerely believe by expanding the table count in the plaza through the day and the night and making it all public access in the morning and until the afternoon, we're adding to the public benefit. We're only taking that strip or using that strip through the center in the evening hours when in reality the usage of the plaza by the public is de minimis. The alternative would be just shift the public plaza, change the easement. We're not trying to have given the town something and then take it away. I understand the perception that you know, you could look at it that way. We're sincerely not trying to do that. The alternative would be just redefine the easement and put it alongside Flower, Water, Salt, and Espresso Neat. And if you shifted the easement alongside the building, you'd be accomplishing the same thing. There's no net loss. I actually think you're better off, the town is better off, the public is better off with what we've proposed. And I think that the zoning application is very specific, that even if it's not public plaza, we're allowing the public to use the entirety of the plaza, not just that center strip, but the entirety of it through the mornings, 7 days a week. It's only at lunch and dinner. I mean, in reality, the Glassmeyers could take the rectangle alongside Melting Pot, and they could take the rectangle alongside Flour, Water, Salt, and Espresso Neat and make that private space and not have it available to the public at all. But they've left the whole thing open, mornings, I think to the net benefit of the public. And we're saying we'll take it further by adding tables. So I urge you to just look at the table count, think of how it's actually being used. I think you'll agree, but I understand your concern. This is not like a bait and switch. It's not we gave you this to get the third floor, and now we want to take it away.
Right, and David, I'm worried that perception will hold with further deals, and that's what I'm concerned about. I don't want a clawback at some point in the future from another developer because we changed our minds here, and I just have to get, I will consider, I think our board will consider, changing the easement over, that helps.
That might be easier. One thing to consider though, and Bob would know better than me, but I think that this wouldn't be the first time that the town has given someone the right to use a public plaza. I think the Goose, technically, the outdoor dining, Jeremy would probably know specifically, but I think that the outdoor dining in that pergola alongside the Goose, I believe that is technically public plaza that the Goose has the right to use through a Board of Selectmen decision a long time ago. Because that building also has a third floor, and that was one of the first buildings that used the public plaza option as a means of creating the third floor. So I assure you, there's no intention here to bait and switch, and you could, if it's easier, relocate the easement. I would just say though that we really felt like we were creating more public access, more public opportunity, and that's in the zoning approval. So we can't show up and put a new tenant in Flour, Water, Salt in 2 years and propose to take that away. If we wanted to use the public plaza in any different way, we have to come back to zoning and we have to come back to you to do it. So, it's a conversation every time.
2 questions. Is this is relevant on lovely weather evenings, or will you have heat lamps out there?
Probably May 1st. Oh, sorry. Right now, we usually go from May 1st to October 1st.
Okay, thank you.
It's usually good.
Oh, yeah. I would also point out, Bob made a good point. The tables are out there year-round because if you get a warm winter day, people love it there and they use it. So we don't intend to change that in any way.
I think to your credit, it's such a beautiful space that it is heavily used. I did stop in today to Neat, and I know, I didn't realize they're open until 4 o'clock. But I am waiting to hear back from the owner to get their read on this, and also from Flour. Let me ask you, so let's say that, and I know that planning and zoning has a much more smaller area that they're actually considering for this, but what would you do if you had the tables, if somebody from Neat got their coffee, I don't know who drinks coffee at 4 o'clock, but people do. They got their coffee and they were sitting at a table, and then you wanted to put the tablecloth on. Would you ask the people to leave?
I think the intention would be to just, say, we see what happens every day. There is never more than 1 or 2 tables being used in the afternoon here. So I think what we've provided is 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tables that would be available in the night. And I think, you got a glimpse of Chester Grabowski. We've spent a lot of time with him and his family. They're extremely hospitable, community-minded people. They're probably one of the most, if I say they're the most hospitable restaurateurs I've ever met, then I'll offend my other tenants. So I can't say that, but they're among the most hospitable people I've met, and I think they would graciously say, we're setting up for dinner, would you mind, could we sit you over here? I suspect they would probably offer a dessert or a glass of wine or something to someone too. That seems to be the way that they roll.
Let them finish and then.
Or let them finish and go.
They're our guests.
Keep in mind, the difference here too, keep in mind is that the Glassmeyers are the landlords to all of the businesses. So there's a total alignment of interest, between the town and the Glassmeyers, because they don't want unhappy customers of their tenants. If this was not owned, if these buildings were owned by different people, I could understand the concern, but given the nature of the situation, I don't see that being a problem.
Okay. Well, you know what, I would like to get feedback from our 5th Board of Selectmen member, and he's not here right now. And I'd also like to look into maybe Jeremy, you can help me with the easement situation, explain to our board that. So I think based on the hour, I'm going to ask if we can circle back on this.
Yeah, so you want a motion to table to?
Can I just make one more?
Sure.
Just comment. There are a couple of unwritten benefits to the town. They weren't required. Penny did it. Some of it still goes on today. All of this was originally part of the project has now been deeded to the town. Most of it a deed to the land. The rest of it, because of some of the boundary lines, are parking easements conveyed to the town. So the town got a completely finished parking area as part of this project. As David mentioned, these tables and chairs were never required by any of the documentation, not the planning and zoning approval or the public plaza document itself. Just not required. For several years, what did you call it, David? Darien Summer Nights? If you've been down there, it's about a Saturday night, usually Friday, there's a crowd down there. There's music and everybody's having a blast. Not required by any of the documentation, and that is purely a town benefit function. People come off the train, they go to it. I've been to a few of them. So those are the unwritten benefits, unrequired, it's just the way it's been done.
And very appreciated, really.
Penny's been a wonderful.
Very appreciated.
Penny's been a wonderful neighbor down
Absolutely.
there, a citizen. She also had the utilities dropped off poles and put underground on Brook Street. There's a lot that the town, a lot of benefit in favor of the town that you don't see written anywhere.
Absolutely. And it's late.
It's getting late.
And I really think this is, I really want all 5 board members to be here, and we will be scheduling some meetings to work out on the committee. So I would suggest that we table this until our next. Well, we could do it earlier. We could, because we're, yeah, we could call a special meeting.
Okay, so just to a date to be determined.
To a date to be determined, yeah.
Motion and second.
When is this restaurant looking to come in to this building, if you don't mind me asking? Tomorrow?
We're doing our drawings, plans now, so
Okay.
hopefully to start construction in the summer.
So you'd like the decision sooner than
Yeah,
later,
please.
right?
Okay.
Right. Let me ask you, I noticed in here that you're taking out vegetation. Obviously, you're not taking out the trees, correct?
No.
Okay,
no.
so what are you taking out?
I don't think there's any, let's propose,
Like this one. So the only vegetation we possibly take out is the planters in front of the building.
Okay, that doesn't
Nothing
pertain
to
to
the
us.
No.
It's
Okay.
basically a brick
Right, okay,
curbing with some dirt for plantings, that's it.
all right.
But thank you for your consideration, we really appreciate it. And thank you for doing the accelerated meeting, because we were hoping actually to pass the restaurant over. So we're basically in a situation where we cannot pass it to the restaurant until it's approved by you, because you need to approve it, hopefully to have P&Z approve it. And they can't formalize anything until this is all done. And we're hoping to have done this on May 1st. And this is just,
Here we are.
and here we are.
They're pedaling as fast as they can.
So we really appreciate you
Understand.
getting it.
When,
Totally.
when, did you have a date?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But we understand time constraints, and that we will bump this to top priority. Okay?
Thank you.
Any other questions while we have experts here?
Thanks for your answers.
Thank you.
Motion.
Marcy moves, Sarah seconds, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you. Okay. Where are we, Kate? What's next?
The next one is a special appropriation on Untitled, on the agenda.
Yeah.
In order to do items 4 and 5, you need to complete your executive session. So I don't know if you want to do that. There's nobody here for the town aid road grant. The other thing, I don't know if that is still here for the transfers. If you're going to have a special meeting, you can always do the transfers at a later date. But,
Okay.
Wayne and Patty are still,
Right.
and Tony are still waiting on the tax bills.
Okay, so, okay, so can we adjourn to
Yeah,
executive,
back
deal,
to executive session.
cover those items, come
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
and put the rest on the next meeting?
Yes. we can
Okay,
do that.
do we need,
When you say the rest, you mean the entirety of the rest of the agenda?
That is all up to you.
Isn't there some stuff
I-
that needs to be approved?
I
before
would
July?
love to do the appointments this evening.
oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely,
Selfishly.
absolutely.
Are there things that are,
And I think the push-pull we need to do.
Crucial.
The push
yes.
pull needs to go.
Would
The
love to-
transfers, if you're meeting again, if you're doing a special meeting, we could do the transfers at a special meeting.
Okay.
Or I think they could wait until July 3rd.
Okay, and
The only
then,
one I'd like
but
to
is there
go over
anything
the town aid
financially that you need to
program.
have done
Yeah, we need to do the wage.
Yeah.
by the end of the
By
year?
July
Right,
1st.
which is
By
fine.
now.
By July
Okay.
1st.
So we're going to go into executive.
Okay, but we can, okay.
Yep. Okay, so who's moving second?
Sarah seconded. All in favor? Everyone's in favor. A motion to approve a special appropriation for the town aid road grant. This total is good, right, Kate?
Yep.
$679,394. Marcy moves, Sarah seconds, all in favor? Terrific. Thank you. Unanimous. Okay.
Tax appeals,
You're,
and I don't have them in front of me.
I left those.
It should be written on your sheet, though.
Okay.
The name sheet.
Okay. I got this. May I have a motion to approve the settlement of the case of Eric and Jennifer Rameau versus Town of Darien to amend the fair market value of the property from $3,639,800 to $3,200,000 effective applicable to the grand list for October 1, 2020 through October 1, 2022, in accordance with the stipulation for judgment. Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. May I have a motion to approve the settlement of the case of Sandra Drimmel versus Town of Darien to amend the fair market value of the property from $9,040,100 to $8 million even, effective applicable to the grand lists of October 1st, 2021 and October 1st, 2022, in accordance with the stipulation for judgment. Marcy moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. May I have a motion to approve the settlement of the case of Ann and William Sullivan versus the Town of Darien to amend the fair market value of the property from $4,829,800 to $4,500,000, effective applicable to the grand lists of October 1, 2019 through October 1, 2022, in accordance with the stipulation for judgment. Mike moves, Sarah seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay, next item on the agenda is to discuss and take action on a request for approval of a 23-24 wage plan, and Kate's going to go over this.
Okay, so as I presented to you in executive session, this is a wage plan for non-represented employees. And this year, because it is a municipal election year, you're also setting the wages for the other elected officials, not including the first selectman, for their terms. By law, you have to set the wage rates for elected officials before the start of their terms and for their full term. You do have the option, and I should go back to the, we are in the middle of a compensation study for the non-represented employees that does include 2 of the elected officials.
I believe that study will be completed within the next couple of months. So we may be coming back to you asking for additional pay adjustments for other employees, including those 2 elected officials. As long as it's done before the start of their terms, you can do that.
And when are those increases
So
effective?
for non-represented employees, it would be the 1st of July. For the tax collector and the treasurer, it would be, I believe it's the Monday after Election Day in November. For the town clerk, it's the first Monday in January, and for the registrars, I think it's the first Wednesday in January.
And this is, we're bound legally by this?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And that's it.
That's it? Any questions? Any
No, I
discussion?
appreciate your work on this.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the 23-24 wage plan? Sarah moves, Mike seconds. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Next item on the agenda is to discuss and take action on a request to approve the 2023 push-pull parade. Kate?
So this is an annual thing. They were a little bit late getting us this request, but they did get it to the police commission last week, and they approved it with no contingencies that I'm aware of. So I would recommend that you approve this so that it can take place on the 4th of July.
Though I won't be here, I heartily support
Yeah,
this.
me
I've
too.
taken
I love
part in
this
it.
event.
It's lovely, and thank you for those who are putting this together.
You're not going to be here for it?
Not going to be here on the 4th of July, no.
Okay.
Hence the Zooming
Me either.
the night before.
Okay, that's a problem. I have to hold those tykes back.
You can do it. We have faith in you.
The whole thing is they get so close to the fire truck on their little bikes. It's like, if the fire truck stops, not good. But anyhow, I digress. Okay, may I have a motion to approve? Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Push-pull parade is approved, contingent upon the approval of the Darien Police Commission and subject to the requirements of the Darien Police Department. Okay, next item. Kate, are we doing youth services?
Yeah, so
Okay. Wait. Discuss and take action on a request for a transfer of $25,577 to youth services program expenses.
Wow.
right. So some things in their programs had to change due to COVID, such as more bus trips, whereas in the past they had some where people went in cars.
Yeah.
You know, they go in buses. Also, the other thing that has seriously impacted them this year is that they're limited in their space. There was only one school where they could have camp. And they have limited indoor space. So they try and have one camp off-site, you know,
Yeah,
all the
there's
time
more
to
field
spread,
trips.
right, spread it out. So more field trips, which has driven up the cost. On the positive side, we've also got increased revenues. So I would ask.
Sounds
you-
good.
Town camp's a good thing. We love it.
Okay. Any other questions for Kate? Any discussion? May I have a motion to approve a transfer of $25,577 to youth services program expenses? Marcy moves, Mike seconds. All in favor? Terrific. Unanimous. Next item is to discuss and take action on a request to transfer $50,000 for Norotan Heights Railroad drainage improvements.
Is that you, Jim? That's Ed?
Ed's gonna do it?
It's Ed. He has waited for this moment all night long.
I'm excited about this project.
This is massive.
The transfer I'm looking for is, I'll tell you, currently we have $500,000 at the, for the Norotan Heights train station, the drainage project itself. So as of July 1st, there'll be $500,000. And our bid came in, our low bid came in at $515,000. What I did though is I put a little bit of money in for contingency, a little over 6%, just in case we find some stuff in the parking lot. So I'm asking for a transfer of $50,000 out of the parking fund capital projects account to get this project started. We're on target to get started as long as the money is in place.
When does construction start?
Sorry?
When does the construction start?
We're looking to get it started sometime in August.
Hmm.
We're trying to get it, at least the majority of it finished before September, when everyone seems to be back in town and going to school. But we have a couple other things going on in that area, mainly paving and sidewalks. That definitely has to get done first. So we're planning on doing this in sections, holding off some parking in and then rotating around.
Thank you.
So Ed, is the 6%, is that kind of typical?
I round it up.
Yeah.
I usually do 5% and then I just round it up to 50,000. That's all I really did.
So when you save that 35,000, it goes back into the fund?
It stays in the parking fund.
Right, if you don't use it.
It'll go back.
Right, okay. All right, any other questions, Brad? All right, may I have a motion to approve the request to transfer $50,000 for the Norotan Heights Railroad Drainage System? Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay, next item is discuss and take action on a request to transfer $9,000 for parking enforcement vehicle. Is that Ed also?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It's all Ed.
You're on, Ed.
It's all me. This is the same, we're going to be using the same parking fund, capital projects, to supplement the additional cost for the new parking enforcement vehicle that we've purchased. As I showed you the new price, we did set money aside, $40,000 for a vehicle. The price came in around 46 plus. And what I did was I added a little bit extra money for our outfitting for lights, sirens, safety equipment on the car.
Decals.
No parking enforcement.
Decals too.
Definitely.
Decals.
Decals.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, may I have a motion to approve a transfer of $9,000 for a parking enforcement vehicle? Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay, next item is the request to transfer $12,000 for the town hall small gym roof replacement.
This funding here, from what, speaking with Jen, we're looking to take the money from the Board of Finance Reserve. At this time, the Board of Finance, I meet tomorrow with them, they will tell us where to take it from if approved here. But what we're doing is we're replacing the small roof on the small gym. We had funding set aside of about $90,000. The price came in around $96,000. So I put a small contingency in. I'm asking for $12,000. We already have the contractor ready to get started in July if the funding is in place to get going.
Any questions? No. All right, may I have a motion to approve a transfer of $12,000 for the town hall small gym? Marcy moves. Mike seconds, all in favor? Terrific.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
Have a good night.
You all there. Thank you.
Drive carefully.
Okay, the Henley Homes Royal Building Committee has been looking for additional volunteers, and 2 residents stepped forward to support the important work that's being done for the renovations of our 3 elementary schools. May I have a motion to appoint Patrick Hayes and Tom Harris to the Henley Homes Royal Building Committee? Sarah moves. Mike seconds. All in favor?
Yes. Very happy. Thank you very much to those who have
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we greatly appreciate our volunteers stepping forward. I'd like to thank Patrick Hayes and Tom Harris for offering their time and their expertise. Next item is review and approve the minutes of June 5th, 2023. That was a regular meeting. Any edits, deletions, corrections? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve as presented? Marcy moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? Next is the minutes for the June 5th, 2023. That was a special meeting. Any edits, deletions, corrections? Okay. Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve as presented? Marcy moves. Sarah seconds. All in favor? Terrific. Next item is agenda review. Any items, topics board members would like to see on a future agenda? Okay. Next item, may I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Thank you.
I'm sorry.